Right, so a couple of minutes apart, so we're going to kick it off. We've got 50 or so people. I'm sure a few more will join as we get started. So, quick intro. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mitesh, founder of Success at School, and thank you for joining us this evening for this Ask an Apprentice webinar. I hope you've been enjoying all the activities that are taking place during National Apprenticeship Week so far. If you haven't seen it yet, but we launched our apprenticeship guide on Monday, and to get access to that, ensure you're signed up to our mailing list. So today, on Apprentice Wednesday, we're going to have a candid conversation with three inspirational apprentices: Iman, Jordan, and Zion. I've purposely given them a short introduction because I'd like them to share more information about themselves with you. But before we kick off, a quick overview of the format. I'll ask the apprentices a series of questions, and we'll have 10 or 15 minutes at the end for questions you may have. If you have a question, please ask it in the chat room. Iman, I'm going to start with you. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Go for it.
Yeah, so hi everyone, nice to meet you. My name's Iman Bharti and I'm currently a level 6 Chartered Manager degree apprentice at Microsoft, and I'm studying the Chartered Manager degree apprenticeship, like I mentioned, and that's with Aston University. And I'm currently 6 months into my apprenticeship, so still fairly new. But before that, I had just completed my level 3 digital support technician apprenticeship. So I made the switch from a technical apprenticeship to a more business apprenticeship. And I'm currently working as a business manager for our legal team. So I do our admin stuff, I work with our government affairs team, and then I also manage things like finance and just like the general overview of our business. And my sort of journey into my apprenticeship was that I just came from a regular state school. So I went to a normal sort of secondary school, and then I went to a sixth form. And that is sort of my overview of my apprenticeship. And in my free time, I love reading. And this year I've set myself a goal to read 50 books, which usually I used to keep on top of, but the last year I was slacking a little bit, but hopefully this year I'm going to get back into that reading goal. So yeah, that's basically a brief introduction of me.
You're reading a book a week, are you?
Is it a week? I think, yeah, pretty much. It's almost a week.
What's your current read?
So I'm reading 2 books at the moment. One is called The Plus One, which is like a rom-com, and then the other one is called White Nights. So
excellent.
Thank you for that
introduction. Jordan, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay, bro. Hello, everyone. I'm Jordan. I'm a solicitor apprentice. So my apprenticeship is level 7, and I'm probably a bit of a veteran. I'm 6 years in out of 7. So I've been in the game quite a long time now. But yeah, so essentially, I'm training to be a solicitor and study law with BPP University in Birmingham. I actually work in Mid Wales and I live in Mid Wales as well. Previously, I did work in Birmingham, but I decided to make the move back to home in COVID. So yeah, so I'm working at a firm of solicitors, obviously, and as part of my apprenticeship, I can rotate departments. So at the moment, I'm doing commercial property and agricultural property. In my spare time, I am a keen exercise enthusiast. Not sure anyone's ever said that before, but for some reason I do just really enjoy it. So yeah, that's just a bit about me.
Great, thank you, Jordan. And last but not least, Zion, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all, even if it's virtually. So I'm a financial markets control degree apprentice with Natixis corporate and investment banking. And similar to Oman, I went to a state-funded school, so just a normal secondary school in Barking and Dagenham. And it wasn't only up until I got into sixth form I knew I wanted to do a degree apprentice. And I would say a hobby that I have is literally just making videos, just making content. I know a lot of you reached out to me through like TikTok, and that's how obviously I was able to meet Success at School and to join this webinar with 2 other amazing apprentices as well.
Right, excellent. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for the intro. I wanna take you back a little bit to you know, when you were maybe 14, 15, 16, like before you were like thinking about apprenticeships, were they ever really on your radar at that point? Were schools telling you about them? You know, what were you guys thinking about doing at that age, if you can remember what you're doing? Let's do it in reverse order this time. So Zion, let me ask you that.
So definitely the first time I heard about apprentices was actually when I was in year 11, but it was more apprenticeships for like level 4, level 5. And I'll be completely honest, I wasn't really interested in doing an apprenticeship. I always thought like, oh, after secondary school, why would I want to, or sixth form, why would I go straight into work? Like growing up, I always wanted to have that uni experience, you know, move out with my friends and then just go uni, freshers week, just party every week, then go lectures. So I would say growing up, apprenticeships weren't really on my radar. But it was when I got to more, I would say year 12, when I started realizing that I didn't want to take the traditional route. I did find out there were other routes that were much more beneficial, especially for the career I desired to go into, which is finance. That's when I started to realize like maybe doing a degree apprenticeship or an apprenticeship even at level 5 would be much more beneficial than taking the university route.
Thanks, Zion. Jordan, how about yourself?
Yeah, quite similar really. I would say in sort of that year 9, year 10, year 11 phase, apprenticeships were not on my radar at all. I honestly had no idea that you could even do them in the fields that are available now. I sort of just thought they were traditional, you know, your normal sort of old school apprenticeships where if you didn't want to go to uni, that was the only other option. And then, yeah, similarly, it was probably when I got into sixth form and we started doing our UCAS applications and applying. I thought, I think that I need to have a look what else is out there for me to get where I want to go. And yeah, they were never mentioned in school. In fact, my school actually thought it was a hoax, the apprenticeship scheme that I applied to. So that was interesting. But yeah, I think, and probably more so because I am 6 years down the line, when I was at school, they were really rare. So it wasn't that heard of to go into an apprenticeship after sixth form. It was kind of expected that you would go and follow the traditional route into university. So yeah, it was only really through self-research and sort of similarly to design that actually figuring out that the benefits are, you know, this and this, and that would suit my career better.
Yeah, I would say mine was kind of similar as well. Like when I was 14 and 15, I had no idea what an apprenticeship was. I was quite actually dead set on going to uni and studying geography. And it wasn't until like just before lockdown, I went to like a taster day at university, and I got to basically shadow a geography uni student. And I was like, you know what, surely there's got to be an alternative, because I'm just not enjoying like shadowing and going to lectures. Like I just cannot learn like this. And that's when I sort of came across apprenticeships. And then I was speaking to my sister about it, and she actually did a level 3. And that is sort of how I sort of fell into apprenticeships. But no, my school didn't really speak about apprenticeships. My secondary school didn't, and my sixth form wasn't really keen on the idea. They were quite keen that all their students sort of go to university. So I sort of just had to do my own research and just keep applying and just doing my own thing until eventually I landed my apprenticeship.
Let's talk about that actually. So you guys get to like sixth form, and you know you've all mentioned that it would have been easier for you to apply to university and then go from there. Now, in some respects, you've kind of gone against the grain because a lot of people still go to university and done an apprenticeship. But not only that, like, you know, in the sort of before we started this conversation, we managed to have a chat, and you know, Iman, it's very hard for an Asian woman to get into a tech business. Like Jordan, you live in a really rural spot, so finding someone that you can work with, like it's not necessarily that clear. And Zion, you know, like being a young black man going into finance, it kind of goes against trend. Like, so you went against the grain about not going to university, and then you've also like come across some barriers to get into your apprenticeship, right? Talk us through like what gave you the energy, the passion, the skill set to think that you can make it?
That's a really good question.
Let's kick off with Jordan, actually.
I think for me, it is just pure stubbornness. I think I am one of those people that knows what they want, and I will do what I can to get there. And I think because of the way that I'd come across the apprenticeship program, in it being self-research, I had convinced myself that this was something that I wanted to do, and how was I going to take the steps to overcome it. That being said, it was really hard, and there was a lot of applications that went in that I never even heard back from, or just straight up rejection, no reason, no sort of feedback given. But I think perhaps this generation now we're in the mind frame of, we know what we want our careers to look like, and I think just having that like inner deep dig of, it's okay, I can cross this hurdle, I can cross this hurdle, I can cross this hurdle. I think if you've got that sort of like mental stamina, and that's perhaps part of your personality, I think anyone who's sort of in that process of going through applications, whether that is for uni or whether that is for apprenticeships, that there might be something that crops up that will set you back, but if you've got the sort of mental capacity to push yourself through it, I think you'll be fine.
Zion, let's go with you next. And thank you very much. That's a really, really great answer. I think it's really inspirational to hear that.
Yeah, so I would say more so with my journey, I remember, so I grew up in like kind of a rough area, so there wouldn't be usually people looking like me or like my friends working in finances or working in these big corporations. So from a young age, we really like cut off like even thinking about working within these like types of roles. And I would say that really did affect like what I would do and stuff, because in school I didn't really try there. So I came out with like decent grades, but for example, I wanted to work in finance, but I left school without passing my maths GCSE. Like my mom was even like, that's not gonna work. Like that doesn't align at all. It wasn't only until I took the decision to like, you know what, I want to change of environment. Like I want a whole new fresh start. And I moved to like another sixth form to like just have a whole fresh start. I started to understand that actually it's possible to go into these roles being like a young Black individual, whether that's your boy or a girl. And it was when I had my first taster day for this law firm, because I remember at first I wanted to do finance, and I was switching to law, and I've gone back to finance and business management. I really just wanted to try everything. So I tried out this law firm called Herbert Smith Freehills, and I applied for a scholarship scheme with them. And it was through that I was able to meet so many different individuals who were obviously Black, working in like a law corporation as big as Herbert Smith Freehills, and having conversations with them. And then from then, like telling me their personal stories, and from then on, them mentoring me, I was able to realize like, oh, I do have what it takes to like break into these roles. And then after there, like a fire was just lit in me, and I just told myself that I am going to get a degree apprenticeship, like I am going to break into these roles. And like Jordan, I faced a lot of rejections. Sometimes I didn't even hear back from them, but I just kept on pushing. And then luckily I was able to get back from the Texas and find out I was successful in becoming one of the degree apprentices.
That's also very, very inspirational. I actually had a follow-up question for you on that, right? Well, not follow-up question, a statement. You said that you happened to get this scholarship with Herbert Smith Freehills. I just want to let everyone know that that's one of the biggest law firms in the country. It's not just any law firm. So that was like an amazing achievement. So you've done really, really well to get that. And what triggered your passion for finance, would you say, Zion?
Oh no, with the Herbert Smith Freehills, I made it to the last stage, but after I didn't get the role from that. And then after that, that's what it said, degree apprentices. But I would say what really triggered me wanting to finance, so like, as from a young individual, so we didn't really grow up with a lot of money. So growing up, what big thing with me was like, oh, like what job can I get in the future that would give me a lot of money? Like what can I do to like, let's say, be like financially free in that aspect? So even when it was in secondary school, I remember from our core, I was telling you I would go to school, like I would sell like food. My mom would make like jollof rice and stuff like that, like traditional African food, and sell that. I'd go to the shops early morning, buy anything I can, and then sell it in school for a higher price to make profit and all of that. And then just from then on, and even telling my mom that she would always used to tell me that, oh yeah, you're going to be a businessman one day, you're going to be an accountant one day, stuff like that. So I think just from like growing up, not having a lot, it made me want to work hard to someday have a lot, in a way.
Sounds good. Well, I worked in finance for 10 years, and the best advice I ever got given was buy low, sell high. So sounds like that's what you were doing. Well, thanks very much. And Iman, if I can, get you to answer that question as well, please.
Yeah, so for me, like you said, there's even now, like there's still not a lot of South Asian women in tech. Like I work in one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and there's still not people who look like me, especially like I'll look at our senior leadership, there's still people who don't look like me. I'll work with our clients and our partners. And again, there's still people who just don't look like me. And I think for me, that wasn't off-putting in a way. It was almost like, wait, I feel like now I sort of like it's making me like, it's giving you a drive to almost like go ahead and actually go for it even more. And since like a young age, I was always like very, very passionate about tech. I was always into tech. I still remember like my dad getting the first computer and setting it up, and like Paint and Word and PowerPoint, and we had like limited internet access because my mom was like, you're not going on the internet, you're literally like 5. And I remember just like playing around with the tech that we had, and I was like, as I got older, I realized that, even though there's people who don't look like me in the tech space, I'm so passionate about it. And if I can bring that and then also advocate for young South Asian women in general, and just support them into getting into tech, then I feel like at least I'm sort of making an impact. And I think it was that sort of element which pushed me to apply to the apprenticeship and keep pursuing what I enjoyed.
Amazing. You've all mentioned that you faced a lot of rejection, right? Are you able to quantify how much rejection you face? So people on this call and people who watch this webinar later on can understand like how long to continue going for.
Yeah, I don't mind going. So I was actually looking at this the other day, but I had like I have a written list, and then I just love, because I prefer writing, and then I also had like a digital list. But I think I faced over like 30 to 35 rejections, I want to say, maybe more, but I think on average it was like 35 like rejections from like application to like first interviews, and then in the end I had like 2 offers. So it definitely is a very like daunting, intimidating, quite lonely process, to be honest. But you sort of learn, and your first application versus your last application before you actually secure your apprenticeship look very different, and it's a great learning experience. But yeah, like I feel like rejection is just redirection. I think it's what you do with the rejection that counts more, rather than sort of like counting how many you get.
Rejection is just redirection. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to use that at some point. Let's just reverse order. Zoran, how about you? Do you know how many approximate applications you're doing?
I applied for it was definitely 20 plus rejections. I don't have an exact number, but definitely around like 20 plus rejections. And like Iman said, it's like rejection is just redirection. And I think a key skill, like not just myself, but obviously Iman and Jordan demonstrated, was resilience. So even though we were facing those rejections, even though sometimes we wouldn't hear back from these companies, it was honestly just pushing ourselves and then learning from like past mistakes. So for example, I know some of them I'd have to write a CV for them after I would apply for one and maybe not get so far. I would go to my auntie or go to my mentor and be like, is there any way I could like redraft or remake my CV to make it look more business-like, more professional? So I would say you can really learn a lot from like your applications that may not be successful, because it will help you in the application that is successful.
Yeah, and I was very similar. I wasn't as organized as mine, and I didn't keep a spreadsheet. But when I was sort of applying, there wasn't actually many apprenticeships about, because the solicitor apprenticeship scheme had only launched, I think, the year or a year and a half before. So I honestly think I probably applied to nearly every single vacancy that was out there. And yeah, you get a lot of, and you'll still probably get it now, which isn't always great. You'll get a lot of places that just don't reply. You don't even know if you've been rejected. You don't even know if you've got through the roster. But I think the ultimate experience of applying and shedding yourself in a good light, because that's ultimately the application process. So they want to see what you think of yourself and how you can fit into their organization, you learn over time, you know, what it is about yourself that you can put forward as being a strength, and what it is that you're going to give to that company. And I think, and that, like, in the end, I think I only got through to like 3 or 4 actual interviews and assessment centres, but luckily for me, one of the assessment centres actually did the same psychometric test as one of the others. So I'd done it before and I felt lovely and confident, and oh, I've done this, it's okay, give me a sense of ease. But yeah, I think don't be put off by the fact that, you know, you're not hearing back or it's a no. Take on, if they give you feedback, take it on, and like Simon said, go away and have a look at your CV or your application or what you've written, and see, oh, was it just there that I've maybe not gone quite right? But I think it can be disheartening, but you've got to remember why you want it and what the long-term goal is.
Amazing. So I just want to touch on this a bit, because I think like, you know, when we look at like all of these kind of webinars and stuff, everyone goes around like what the application process is, and we'll get to that, but no one really talks about the fact that you face 35 rejections, right? So after 6, how do you keep going? Or after 10, how do you keep going? Or after 15, you know, what gives you the confidence you're going to get something? Or the same with Jordan, the same with Zion. Like where does that come from? Do you have people that say you can do it? Do you have this inner voice? Like did you have to succeed in something else in life to go, actually, I know I'm good enough? Like, how can we help these guys who are on here go, well, if I face that, what will make me keep going? I'm going to start with him. Well, no, go on, Zion. You're ready to go.
Oh, no, I was going to say, what motivated me a lot was I was lucky I had a mom who supported me. So my mom wasn't just fixed on, oh, I just want my child to go down like the traditional route. I told her about I wanted to do the degree apprenticeship, and I explained to her what it is. And she was actually really fond of the idea. So she did support me a lot. But same as Jordan, I think I'm just stubborn. I was already telling people this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm one of those individuals, if I say I want to do something, I'm going to work hard to get it. So even though I was facing those rejections, I just kept on pushing. And then even hearing stories from like my mentors and stuff saying like for them to get to the positions they were at their career, it wasn't always just like a smooth road. Like you are going to face bumpers, you are going to face rejections. So it was completely normal to face. So from that, I just knew how to keep on going. And as long as there was like a vacancy or position open, then what reason do I have to not apply for it? Like this could be the one I could get. And my mom always told me when I was a kid, like, you never know you can get something until you try. So I can't really give up unless I've tried completely everything. So that was really like my driving factor to keep going.
Yeah, I hear that. Honestly, I feel like I definitely agree on the last bit. Like, if there's like a vacancy out there, like there's just no excuse, you can just keep applying. But honestly, I feel like I'm thinking about it now, like looking back, like getting like your first rejection at like 8, because I was like 17, 18 when I was applying to apprenticeship straight after sixth form. And I do remember just being like so upset. Like I would just be going about my day in sixth form or on the weekend, and I would just get an email saying, sorry, like it was really close call, but like we've gone with someone else. And honestly, like at first it does suck, but I think it's just something where if you know like this is what you want, you just sort of keep going. And for me, you've got quite a stubborn group here today, because I was also very stubborn. I refused to apply to university, and I told our sort of support, like sixth form lead, that look, I'm not going to apply to university. I'm like dead set on doing an apprenticeship. And I was like, if this is genuinely what I want, then I just have to keep applying and I just have to keep improving. And eventually there'll be like a company that meshes well with me and I mesh well with them. And for me, it was, yes, I was getting rejected, but I was also applying to companies where I wasn't necessarily, 100% set on like working for them, but I knew that it would be a good experience for me to also just go through the application process, because practice does make perfect eventually. And I think it is difficult to stay motivated, but I would say if you keep preparing and you just sort of stay positive and persistent, you can sort of feel like the end goal. You can sort of feel when it's sort of starting to come to an end and you're getting closer to it. But it is difficult. I mean, 35 rejections is not for the weak, but I think because I sort of had that goal in mind, it's sort of made it easy. And I think having a good support system around you, whether that be teachers at school, mentors, siblings, parents, guardians, anything, that definitely helps. Definitely do lean on them for that support as well.
Thank you very much. It'd be interesting to hear what you say, Jordan, if anything different.
I don't have much to add, actually. I think everyone's hit the nail on the head there. But the only other thing I would say is just, although it is lonely, you're not doing it on your own. And actually, we are a generation now where we overshare everything on social media. And if you go on TikTok or you go on Instagram, and I put my hands up, I'm 100% guilty of this. But if you have a look, people are going through the same process of you, and they're experiencing the same rejections, the same setbacks. And if you can all rally together and motivate each other, that will help you out so much. You know, I came across a page on TikTok the other day where this poor girl's just having rejection after rejection to be trainee solicitor the normal way. But the following and the comments that she was having, it was so lovely to read. And actually, everyone is in the same boat. So yeah, I think just don't forget that.
I want to touch on one more thing that you guys have just mentioned, and actually, the thing I wanted to ask you, I just remembered. And then we're going to, I know we've only got 15 more minutes technically, but we might overrun in a bit if that's okay with you guys, and okay with the attendees. But you touched on your environment a little bit. So Zion, you said that you moved from, like, you know, an underperforming school or a bad area. Iman, you've just mentioned your support structure, and Jordan, you've mentioned other people going through the same thing. How important is it to have like-minded people around you, or people that are gonna like push you to get that position or to do that thing that, you know, we talk about? Let's start with you, Zion.
No, that's actually a big one, because I was gonna say, like, moving into like the new, like, so obviously where I went secondary school, I didn't go for sixth form. I decided to go to like another school for sixth form. And bear in mind, my secondary school was like in East London, and my new sixth form was like in Southeast London. So I went to the like other side of London to start a sixth form. And I would say the people that I met in that sixth form really did push me a lot, because everyone was like a high achieving student. So I didn't want to get that feeling as if like I'm falling behind, and everyone already had like plans of what they wanted to do. Like, they might have not known like, oh, I want to go into this career, but they definitely had plans of like, oh yeah, I want to get into this uni already, and these are the grades I have to achieve. So like from year 12, we were all already like starting to work hard, and I could see that like having a positive effect on me, because when I started doing mock exams and everything, I started coming out with good grades. I started having predicted grades that were of high grades. Like when my parents were coming in for parents' evening, the teachers had nothing good but to say to my mom. And that's why I say, like, who you really surround yourself will really push you a lot, because you don't want to, in a way, feel like, oh, I'm falling behind, or like I'm being the dead weight in a group in a way. But also I would say is, if you can, like, try and connect with people who may be able to relate with you. So I know like one of my mentors, for example, he's like a senior marketing officer. So he's not even in finance, what I want to do, he's in marketing. But because he grew up in a similar situation as me, like in a certain environment and certain circumstances, like he really does relate to me in a lot of ways. So when I talk to him about anything I may be feeling like, not work related, but just career wise, and if I'm a bit unsure of what to do, he does really help give me the guidance. You know, he's like key points and tips to help me get to where I want to get. And I would say he's like one of the big reasons I did manage to land this degree apprenticeship, because like just the soft skills he would teach me is something basic as when you go in for an interview, make sure you look at the interview in the eyes, always keep that eye contact, shake their hands. It's just like small basic stuff you learn from other people that really do go a long way and make you more like rememberable to these employers that you're doing interviews for.
Thank you. Jordan, do you want to step in?
Yeah, so again, can't disagree there. I think who you surround yourself with in those later years of secondary school and sixth form, they do really make a big difference. Because, you know, if you are watching all your friends go off to uni, or you know they've got their career path, you don't want to be left behind. And whether that's, you know, when you're revising for your GCSEs or you're revising for your A levels, no one ever wants to be, you know, the worst one. So yeah, I do really think, and even like Simon said, make connections with people that you don't know, make go and speak to people, go and speak to real employers, go and get work experience. I know it's not always easy to get work experience in the field that you want to. I couldn't get any work experience in law, but even just having conversation with someone on LinkedIn or social media, it just builds that connection, and it sets you on that path of, oh well, I know that person, I can speak to that person about it. It does help motivate you to sort of carry on.
I definitely agree on the aspect of like reaching out to like employers, or even just like if there is like an apprenticeship you're interested in, reach out to the apprentices, because on like most of the time they do want to help, and the worst thing they can do is probably just not open the message. You can just message someone else, and it is nice because you get that support. You sort of get that perspective from an actual current apprentice. I would definitely do that if you are thinking to apply. But for my situation, it was a bit different. No one at my school, like even my friendship group, applied. Like I was the only student in my whole sixth form who actually applied for an apprenticeship, and there was quite a lot of stigma around apprenticeships in my school, especially because the teachers were sort of not keen on the idea. I remember like mentioning it to like my geography teacher, and she was like, "Oh, like, are you sure that's what you want to do?" Like, like she's like, it's just, they always think it's like a second option. And the support system for me at school wasn't necessarily great, but I think for me at home it was good. I was quite encouraged to do an apprenticeship, and I also had like a cousin who was a similar age, and she was applying to apprenticeship, so it was nice so that we had sort of each other, and we'd be like, how is this like application going for you, and vice versa. So I think having someone who's going to hold you accountable, but also like support you. But if you're not getting that support, just find it elsewhere, because I know I definitely wasn't getting it at school, but at home and through my family, I was getting that support.
Thank you very much. Time is whizzing by, and I've got so many questions still left to ask you guys. So I know there's a few questions that have come through on the chat, and we'll try and get to them at the end. I'm going to ask you about your apprenticeship now and your apprenticeship process and application. But one question I have seen says, if you had your time again, would you do an apprenticeship or do university? So quickly answer that. I think I know what the answer is going to be for all of you, but let's just go through it. Would you recommend doing an apprenticeship, Iman?
Yeah, 100%. I would, if I was to go back. I'm still picking an apprenticeship.
Jordan?
Yes, 6 years down the line, and yes, I would do it all again.
6 months down the line, but yeah, I would still do it, especially like within the financial industry, like the people you'll be able to meet and like the money you'll be able to see handling, and like how they actually handle that money, the methods and techniques that they use, like it'll be so much more beneficial than if I went to university, because I'm going to be able to get that experience and that exposure if I did go to uni.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this to Jordan first. So tell us a little bit about, so all of you've applied a lot, right? Let's talk about the one that you got into. Tell us a little bit about the application process, what you needed to do to get in, and then what happened once you got in. So
Yeah, so
Jordan,
I have a funny little story really about this. So when I was in sixth form and I applied first, I went on to the paralegal apprenticeship, which transitions into the solicitor. There wasn't many apprenticeships about, so I applied to a firm in Birmingham. And I worked there for 2.5 years, and I loved it. Can't fault it. It was DAC Beechcroft in Birmingham, great firm. And then we had lockdown, and I thought, actually, I want to work and I want to live at home. I don't want to commute 2.5 hours in the morning and in the evening to and from work. I quite like my little countryside life. And so when I was transitioning onto the solicitor apprenticeship, I was looking for alternative apprenticeship opportunities because I was offered the role still at DAC to carry on with them. And there wasn't really anything local to me. So I prepared this letter basically setting myself out on a platter, saying, I think that you would really benefit from having a solicitor apprentice. Here's what it is. Here's what I can do for you. And I handed it out to probably about 45 firms that were within sort of a 30-mile radius of me. And well, probably more actually, that's a bit ambitious. And I had 2 firms that come back to me who had never ever offered an apprenticeship program before, had no idea what the apprenticeship scheme was, and they offered me a role. And so I went in, had multiple chats with them, and yeah, in the end, I decided to go for a firm that was in my hometown where I went to school. All the clients are local, and not always good that I know them, but I really enjoy the fact that I'm helping people that are local to me. But it just goes to show that sometimes you can create the opportunity for yourself, and don't be shy to put yourself on a platter like that and say, here's why I'm good for you, here's why you should invest your time in me. Admittedly, obviously, the firm that I'm at now is substantially smaller than DAC Beechcroft, which was international, and that was a personal choice of mine. But there is the opportunity out there for you to create and, these avenues for your career yourself. I know that hasn't really touched on the application process for the bigger firms. In sort of that sense, it was very standard. You had your psychometric testing, you had your online application, your in-person assessment centres, and then usually a follow-up interview after that, which I'm sure everyone's probably vaguely familiar with now. But yeah, I wanted to mention that just for anyone who's thinking, oh, I don't know if I do want to work at that big international firm. There is also, you can put yourself out there to smaller local places.
I think that's an amazing story, and one of the reasons I think it's also amazing is because you created that opportunity yourself. And I think that there's a little message that I've been getting throughout this whole thing, that opportunities are there for you to create and for you to take. And to be honest, I think that anyone that can do that is worth hiring in any position, quite frankly. So thank you for sharing. And also, I think the other thing is that you've all said that you got rejected a lot. So I feel like the resilience you've gained from that will have helped you doing what you were doing in terms of contacting law firms and etc. Iman, why don't you tell us a little bit about your route into Microsoft?
Yeah, so Microsoft collaborates with a platform called Get My First Job. And so I applied directly through there, and it's quite simple at first. So I did a questionnaire online, and that sort of just phases you out for eligibility. So I think one of the requirements is GCSE, so maths and English. Once you sort of get past that phase, they move you on to the next one, which is essentially a online sort of digital interview. And so the questions sort of pop up to you on a screen, and then you get 2 minutes to record an answer. But if you mess up, it's fine, because they give you 2 goes to refilm it. And then once that is done, you sort of, if you're successful in that stage, you move on to the next stage, where they sort of invite you for another digital sort of virtual call like this, and they'll sort of have HR on the call, sort of give you the history of Microsoft and sort of tell you a bit about what your assessment centre will look like. So for me, that was all online. And that was then phased into 2 interviews with hiring managers. So you're literally on a call with all the other apprentices who are competing with you to get that job. And you're also there introducing yourself to the hiring managers who will be interviewing you on later on. So it is a very interesting experience. So that sort of happened, had 2 interviews, and then they sort of just give you a call within a week of whether you've got it or not. And I'd say the whole application process for my company was around, I'd say, maximum a month from the initial application to finding out whether you're hired or not. So compared to the other companies I was applying to, it was definitely one of the quicker ones. But yeah, overall, it's just an online application, a video interview, and then 2 strength and skills-based interviews with hiring managers.
Thank you. Over to you, Zoe.
So with my application with Natixis, to be honest, Natixis one was my favorite one because most of it consisted of interviews and I just love interviews. So I was like, oh yes. But I know until I started off, we had to send off a CV and if we wanted to, a cover letter. So knowing how I didn't really have much experience, my CV wasn't really the best. I really focused a lot on my cover letter and I really used the help of my teachers in school to help me like make my cover letter and really stand out from it. So for example, putting in any projects that we would do in school, anything I'd done outside of school, I'd really emphasize within that cover letter. And even after I got the job, they found out like the cover letter was really the thing that stood out for them. And then from after the cover letter, it was just a phone interview, a quick 10-minute call. That went successfully. And then this is when the interviews came. So I done 5 interviews. So because within my scheme, I'm going to be rotating between compliance, audit, and risk. 3 of my interviews were for the head of each department. And then the last 2 were with just 2 individuals from HR, but separately. And like I said, it was my favorite one because it was just consistent interviews. And I really love interviews. I feel like that's a great way to not just like get to know your employer, but also connect with them. And from that, I would say my advice is if you do go into interviews, at the end, always ask the interviewer if you can connect with them through LinkedIn. And then, after your interview, send them a quick message saying, thank you for your time. Ask them any questions that you may have not asked when you were at the interview, just to show that you're taking initiative and you are really eager for the role. And that is something I personally done with each one. And I know after I got the role, they did tell me that out of all the other candidates that did apply, none of them really asked them for their LinkedIn, none of them really asked them questions. So that really put me like at a different side to them because it showed I was really eager and took initiative on my own.
So tell me what makes you good at interviews. Why do you like them? Why are you good at them?
All right, I might go a bit informed, but like when it's an interview, I feel like that's a one-on-one time to just get to not just them get to know you, but also for you to know them. So like in my interviews, I remember I was asking like the person that was interviewing me at one point, like, what football team do you support? Or, what's your favorite like dog breed? And then at one point, like me and one of my interviewers, she must have asked me my social media type of person. And I must have told her like, I don't know, like I like going on Instagram and TikTok quite a lot. And we just started talking about like what happens and comes up on our page. So I really think it's just like being like relaxed and calm, because my mom always tells me if you go into an interview stage, it must be because they see something in you, they see a quality in you that they like and they want to further explore. So like go in there with like confidence, not arrogance, but confidence, and like just be there like you're their friend, obviously with like formal respect, but shake their hand, look at them in the eye, say hi, how are you? So when you sit down, it's not just straight questions. They're going to ask you how you were, and then from further on you can explain. I know for one of my interviews as well, I literally had prom like a couple hours after for my 6th form. So after I was talking my interview, was like, oh, do you have anything planned after today? I was talking to him about prom and I'm excited for that. So I really think just like find a common theme you guys can be interested in and then explore that. Yeah. That's what I done.
Great. So we're going to move on to a little bit. Actually, you know what? Actually, I'm going to ask this question before I ask you a bit about what you're currently doing in your apprenticeship, because I think that this ties into sort of the application process. What would you say your strongest skills are, right? Like, what do you think you guys are good at? Like, and I think I've already got a sense of it, but I'd really like to hear from you what you guys think you're good at. I'm gonna ask Iman first this time around, and yeah, like just tell us what you think your strengths are, so people understand like the kind of qualities and skills that people in apprenticeships look for.
Yeah, so I think for me, this is such an interesting question. So I think for me, it was probably, I had like a lot of organizational skills when it came to just sort of like managing my work and my time. And then because of, I'd say like sort of the things that I did at school, like clubs and stuff, and then also my first apprenticeship that I'm bringing into my current role, is something I would call cross-functional skills. And it's a word that gets thrown around in my team quite a lot, but essentially I sort of had the skills to navigate with different teams, because how you would, react to certain things or behave in a certain way in like a legal team is not how you would do it in a tech team. And I was able to sort of pick up on the different skills that you need across sort of our business in different different teams, and I was able to sort of utilize that in a way. So when it comes to collaborating with our external partners or different governments, that's a lot of the work that I'm aligned to. It sort of helps that I'm able to communicate with them and then also convert it into a way that my team will understand or that my peers will understand. So I'd say that is one of the skills I have. And then overall, if we speak like sort of like soft skills, I'd say in general communication and public speaking has improved for me quite a lot, which if you asked me like 2 years ago, I would have said absolutely not, because there's no way I'm going to speak in front of a crowd of people. But I'd say public speaking is definitely something that's worked for me now. And when it comes to giving speeches or when it comes to giving talks for our team and sort of doing things like that, I'm sort of, volunteering myself to support them with that. And then also just communication, I'd say. So that it's like a mix of like soft skills and then a few technical skills as well, things like PowerPoint, Excel, data. I worked a lot with data in my technical team, and then I'm using that in my current team as well. So yeah, just a mix of things, I'd say.
I'm going to ask you, Jordan, next. That's a very comprehensive answer. Thank you, Iman.
I would 100% agree about the point on soft skills, and I think that is probably where my forte is on soft skills. When I was applying for the apprenticeships, I had some really nice feedback on transferable skills and time management, and I just wanted to touch on this because when I was applying, I didn't have any experience in law at all. I didn't do it GCSE, I didn't do it at A level, hadn't done work experience in it. So I really, when I was doing those applications and interviews, I really had to sort of pull across why the skills set that I had from doing other things could apply to my role in a law firm. And just like as an example, one of the pieces of positive feedback I had was how I could show time management from being a swimming teacher and having a class of 6 little ones and having half an hour to deliver the lesson to them. So I think don't forget about the soft skills. They are really, really important. And even sort of how you interact with people. Can you be quite calm in a social environment? What are you going to be like at the work Christmas party? I think they are things that employers think about. They're not at the front perhaps of the job application, but they are something that you can sort of get across and show, I'm really good at this, or I can do this and this would help you because and yes, I think communication wise, I think I'd like to say I've always been okay at it. But yeah, I think even just sort of going through the apprenticeship process, you just pick up skills from working in like an office. It doesn't have to be an office environment, but working in a full-time employment environment, you pick up subconsciously all of these skills, and you just grow as a person.
Excellent. I think those are all very, very valid. Over to you, Zion.
I would say some key skills that I definitely believe helped me land an apprenticeship was definitely like my team working and my communication skills. So growing up, like always playing sports, I met different types of people. Growing up, I was always that kid. If I saw someone and I just wanted to play with them, go up to them and ask like, "Hi, what's your name? Do you want to play?" So I think doing that really helped me a lot, and really being able to show that I can communicate with people, especially within the role I'm in. You're talking to people every day. You're going to be talking to different people every day. Some people might be from other countries, so there might be a language barrier there or something. So being able to show that even though through all of that, you can still communicate effectively really helped me, I would say, land my role.
Amazing. We're already 5 minutes over, and I'm conscious there's quite a few questions. So what I'm going to do now is try and get to the questions, so we're not going much over. I'm sorry. I hope you guys are all enjoying it. Like to everyone that's listening, mostly people still on. So if you're happy to stay on for another 10 minutes or so, we're gonna try and ask a few questions. So here goes. Let's see what's been asked. So there's a question here. Simon, it's probably for you because you've mentioned mentor quite a few times. Do you have any advice on looking for a mentor? And just, can mentors come from family, friends, or school teachers, or different people?
Oh no, definitely. So I'd say like a big mentor that I don't really call my mentor is my mom. And my mom worked as a dinner lady, so she didn't really have any like experience in the corporate doing any like law, finance, or etc. But you can really learn. I learned from my mom that you can learn a lot from just people much older than you in general because they've been through life, they've seen good stuff and bad stuff. So like the wisdom and guidance they can give you can really go a long way. And it's like I said, learning from her, like just the basic manners and basic respect and how I should like present myself in a formal manner really helped me, I would say, land a degree apprenticeship. But now talking on an aspect on if I want to connect with another professional who might be in a field that I'm interested in working in, I would say LinkedIn is the best way to find them. That's how I found like my mentor, which is Edwin. And through that, I just said, hi, how are you? I obviously made a small conversation just to get to know them first. And then from that, I was honest with him. I told him my story and I told him like, why I think he would be a good mentor in helping me, seeing another Black individual in like such a high position in the company that he's in. I also aspired to be like that. So I told him, like, do you have any tips? What's your personal story? How could I one day get into this position? Do you think, like, what are any tips or goals and no goals you would give me? So that would be my best bet. There have been times I've messaged people and they haven't gone back to me. So even though you may like message people, not everyone's going to get back to you. Some people don't really check their LinkedIn, or some people might be too busy. I would say keep trying and looking for mentors and just tell them your story, what you're interested in, and like how you think they could help you in doing that. Because people do like to hear like why they're good and why they could help you get to you want to get to. So yeah, don't be afraid to tell them like why you think they could help.
And there's an extra thank you for that, because you answered a question about using LinkedIn as well. So that was on there. So that unprompted. Do you guys, Iman or Jordan, have any views on mentors? Did you have mentors?
Yeah, definitely. I think family is a really, really big one. And if you've got someone that can push you, it's really helpful. But like for me, but also you do have to go out there and find them yourself. So I didn't necessarily sort of find anyone through LinkedIn or something like that, but it was really bizarre. There was a lady that went to the gym, my local gym, who was a qualified solicitor, and I've been going to this gym since I was about 15, and it was around that time that I just thought, I'm just going to ask her, do you work as a solicitor? And she said, yeah. And I said, oh, I would like to do that. And then as I sort of got older and started looking into apprenticeship, she was like, oh yeah, we'll have a look into it. And like, even now when I see her, she's like, how's work? How's it going? And it's just nice to sort of have someone to rebound those sort of like, oh, well, I was thinking about this. What shall I do? Oh, I think you should do this. And if you've got more than one person, that's equally really, really good, because you can get different perspectives on it. Because often family are like, yes, yeah, that sounds great, and having someone else that is perhaps just outside can sometimes just give you that balance of, oh, shall I? Or I particularly found that when I was moving firms, I was really nervous about moving from a well-known international firm to a small high street firm, and I didn't know what it would look like, and having someone to ask those questions to was really, really helpful.
Definitely, I would say family's a huge, like for me, it was like a huge like motivational factor. I didn't really have like any, I'd say, like professional mentors before my apprenticeship, but once I did start my apprenticeship, I'd say definitely like reach out to people, whether it be through LinkedIn. I would also say one thing as well is like at events, like networking events, or in general, just like early like professional events, if there is someone you've had like a conversation with, or like someone quite senior that you think could support you, and you've had like a good chat with them, like just reach out after the event and be like, look, it was so nice to meet you. Do you think you could help me in this? Or just sort of like create the relationship off of that. So for me, I sort of, if there's someone who's, I've had a really good conversation with, or I've clicked with really well, or I've shared my story with them and they've, been really supportive, then I sort of try to keep in contact with them. And I feel like mentorship also goes two ways, because I always feel like, I'm like constantly asking them for help, but once you really get to know your mentor, you sort of figure out that it's almost like two ways, because they'll be like, oh, I'm learning so much from you. And the first time someone said that to me, I was taken a bit by surprise, and I was like, I'm literally like an 18-year-old apprentice. I'm not sure what you've learned from me, but I think as you sort of progress in your career, it is you meet amazing people who you're willing to sort of keep as a mentor, but also become a mentor for as well.
Thank you. There's quite a few questions on specific pathways of like apprenticeships, like medicine and engineering, etc. And I'm purposely not going to ask them specifics because they're all doing apprenticeships in their respective fields. So apologies if I don't get to those questions, but hopefully they've given you enough insight on how to apply in their fields that for you to understand like what you might or might not do. And there's a question on training actually, which I think is relevant. Someone said, how long is the process until you actually start the apprenticeship training? And I know I overheard Iman briefly say she was at Aston University, etc. So maybe you can just give your experience on the training that you receive at your respective organisations. Jordan might have two experiences.
Yeah. Mine actually started the first week. I don't know what it's like for other areas, but the first week we spent at uni, and then from there on it's just one day release. So my uni day's on a Monday. So for the last 6 years I've been to uni every Monday, and I work the other days of the week. I think the training that you get from your employer is really, really important. I think the uni side of it can be quite standard, although obviously different places do have different ways of doing things. The experience that you get from work, I think, is more valuable than what you get from uni. I learned so much more at work than I have attending my lectures on a Monday, which is no discredit to my university. It's just working in practice, and it can feel quite daunting those first. I'll be honest, the first 2 years, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't feel like I've had enough time to learn what I'm doing. But your employer knows that, and what they should know that when they take an apprentice on is that you learn on the job. So I wouldn't worry that if you think, oh well, I've only been to uni for 2 days, how am I supposed to know that? Ask the questions and be honest about where your limitations lie. But yeah, otherwise the training is ongoing. 6 years in, I'm still doing my day release on a Monday, and I will do so until the end of the 7.
Jordan, which university are you?
BPP uni.
Let me hand over to you, Zion.
I would say with mine, our apprenticeship training started from the get-go, but my one is a bit weird because I only started uni actually last month. So I'm only getting the uni aspects quite recently, so I can't really say too much on it, but I am enjoying it so far. So we like Jordan, how her study day is on a Monday, my one is on a Thursday. So I'm expected into the office actually only 3 days a week, and then on Fridays work from home. So I'm in an office from Monday to Wednesday. But from the apprenticeship training, my company, they do bring like external providers as well to come in and help us with our training. So, it's not just the company, once again, like external professionals coming in to help us. And like Jordan said, you just learn every day on a job. Like every day I learn something new, every day I learn a new skill. Like I thought I was good at Excel, and then I started working where I work, and I realized I'm not as good as I thought I was. So honestly, you will learn like everything, like something new every day. It will be different.
Come on.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you both. Like you're constantly learning. Like your employer does know that you're not going to know everything from the first day. For my company, I think it depends honestly with the company you're employed to and the apprenticeship provider that you're enrolled with. So, for example, with my first apprenticeship, it was technical, and that was with a company called Firebrand. So, I think they start like September time. That's when their like training starts. But I was sort of hired at my company during the summer, so I was there at like July. So I had like a few months to sort of get used to the role, go through like a month of intense onboarding, and then sort of start my learning. And Aston is sort of similar. They sort of hire their degree apprentices in different like batches. So they'll do like a September group and then they'll do like a January group. So it honestly depends what employer you have and what apprenticeship provider and sort of when the dates align. But that doesn't mean they're just going to leave you. Like there will be training and there will be sort of like internal like onboarding tasks and things like that for you to sort of get on with whilst you are waiting for your apprenticeship training to start.
Thank you very much. I'm conscious it's now 7:30, so I'm gonna wrap it up with this one last question. You know, for anyone that's applying, for any young person that's applying and wants to land that top apprenticeship, what's the one bit of advice you would give them? Let's just keep it to a sentence or two, so we're not overrunning too much. But I think everything you've been telling us so far has been excellent. Iman, you kick it off.
I know it sounds cliche, but just be yourself and show your employer the skills that you have.
Jordan?
Mine's very similar, but it would be don't be robotic. Get your personality across, because that's what people hire, is the person. The skills on the paper are lovely, but people get along with people.
And Zion?
Our biggest one would, just like everyone said, be yourself, don't be nervous. If you make it to an interview and assessment center, there's a reason. They obviously see something in you. So just be confident in yourself.
Okay, great. Look, listen, guys, thank you very much for staying on past the initial time. Everyone else, thank you for staying on and listening. A couple of questions. This is being recorded, so we will put it on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram, on YouTube. You know, sign up to our website, register, and you'll get all our material. I want to say a big thank you to Zion, Jordan, and Iman for, you know, just being very candid with their answers and sharing what they've shared. I thought it was really insightful, and you guys are going to have a hugely successful career. I can already tell just by talking to you guys. So well done and thank you. And hopefully we'll do some more work together at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. It was lovely
Thanks.
speaking to you. Bye, everyone.